All right, we have with us this morning Senator-elect and former Senate President Tito Sotto. Senator Sotto, good morning to you. All right.
Karen, good morning to Headstock. Good morning to everyone. Thank you.
Okay, magandang umaga at ilang taon na rin tayong hindi nakapag-usap, sir. It was when you ran, right, for the presidency. So, let's get straight to the point, no? So, it seems that the race for the Senate presidency is tight. I want to ask you first, without revealing, do you have the numbers at this point?
At this point, I don't think anyone has the numbers. Kasi in the Senate, I've been there since 1992. I've been involved in approximately 7 coups d'etats in the Senate. And until you have the signatures and they have voted on the day of the session, you do not have the numbers.
Okay. Oo. So hanggang sa huling araw na yun ang sinasabi nyo. That's the only time you'll know. Now what's interesting, well, the perceived front runners now, of course, is Senate President Cheese Escudero and yourself being a former Senate President. But it's so curious that you are both from the same party. Now, what about the concept of towing the party line na isa lang ang i-field ng party for the Senate presidency?
Well, I brought it up to the attention of the other members of NPC and the other leaders. No, we're discussing it, but it's an issue of whether the members of the party will toe the party line.
But would you toe the party line? I'm curious, considering Senator Escudero is the President SP. If the party decides that let's make him the contender, you would toe the party line?
Of course, I will toe the party line because I am the chairman of the party.
Because sources tell me, and let me know how this affects the party, with the passing of Danding Coangco, is the party, it seems, it's kanya-kanya. There's no real, kumbaga, father figure.
No, that's not quite accurate. Because before Danding got sick, he turned over the chairmanship to me and made himself. We made him the chairman emeritus. No, but he turned over the chairmanship to me. We have always been very close, the members of NPC. Most of them, 95% of them would attend meetings, would attend Christmas parties or meetings for election purposes or just fellowship.
Yeah.
95 of us, 95% of us usually attend. Especially in the national level. I mean, the congressmen, senators, governors, and vice mayors. We do not usually ask the members in the council or the sanggunian to join because masyadong marami.
Oo. Now, Tito Sen, ang tanong ko, have you ever had a dialogue with your party mate, Senate President Cheese Escudero?
No, we have not talked. The last time we talked personally was when he took over as Senate President. He asked for a meeting with me and Senator Lacson and asked for some advice. That was it. And then sometime last year, I think around November, on the phone. But we never discussed the Senate leadership.
Because Senate President Escudero took a leave from the party. And what does that mean to you, being a chairman, when a party member of a high-ranking party member at this point takes a leave and the Senate presidency race is ongoing between the two of you?
Well, I leave it to my party mates. If they will declare a free zone or they will support him or I. Leave it to them. But more importantly at this point, Karen, I think it's the members of the Senate. That's more important than just the party the political party of the senator. Because like in this case, if you count in Senator Escudero, that means we are 6 in the Senate.
Na NPC. Oo.
6 lang yun. You can't elect a Senate President with 6. You know, you have to be 13. So you will have to talk to the others. And then it has been, I don't know, it has been the practice in the Senate that from 1992 onwards, lahat ng mga Senate Presidents na nakita ko, party lines were not really effective in electing a Senate President. Usually it's the camaraderie among them, or the respect, or the chairmanships. Maraming factors, Karen, na pumapasok pagdating sa mga desisyon ng mga senador.
And do you see this as your edge?
Well, if we talk about experience and track record, yes, definitely my edge. I have been Senate President for 4.5 years. Never charged with any corruption, and the budget has never been said as the most corrupt budget. And I have served 9 Senate presidents from 1992 to the present, and yung mga good points nitong mga Senate presidents nito at yung mga flaws, yun ang mga iniwasan ko, at yung good points yun ang sinusundan ko when I was 4.5 years Senate President. So siguro, if track record and experience is the gauge, then I will have the edge.
Okay, so why would it be important to you to be Senate President again? And I'm asking you, this is on a more personal note. Does it also have something to do with the fact that there is, or there might be, I'm going to ask you that later on, the impeachment trial of Vice President Sara Duterte? Is that very important to you for your personal race for the Senate presidency?
No, not at all. It's in the back burner as far as I'm concerned. And as a matter of fact, I did not present myself as a candidate for the Senate presidency. It was my colleagues who talked to me and told me that they will field me as a candidate for Senate presidency, and I accepted. So the status as of now is that if they offer to me and they elect me as Senate President, I will accept it. But for me to go out and ask my colleagues to sign, katulad na gawa ng iba, I've never done that. I am from the old school.
Not to sign, pero you have spoken to your colleagues. Like you spoke with
we have spoken. We have spoken. We have discussed it. We have talked about it. But those who are some of my colleagues are the ones talking to the other members.
Okay. Now there is what they call a Duterte bloc. How many do you count the Duterte bloc to be? For now, I'm counting a solid 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Aimee, Bato, Bongo, Marcoleta, and Padilla. Am I correct?
Correct.
Only 5. Do you count the Villars as part of the Duterte bloc?
Who? Sorry?
The Villars.
Well, the Villars would be probably, yes, but they would have a block of their own.
Okay. Now, do you have the Duterte bloc? Do you believe who will they support?
I think more or less many of my colleagues are, shall we say, floating. They have not expressed. They have not expressed their. They have said yes, we will consider. About it. Yes, we will consider. That's how the situation is.
Now, right now, the obvious choices would be either you or Senate President Escudero, but there's also Senator Amy Marcos now actually offering herself for the Senate presidency. I mean, objectively speaking, you've done this for so long. Do you think she'll have the numbers at any point in time?
It will be very difficult to say. First of all, the Senate presidency is open to any member of the Senate who wishes to be the leader, who has let us say, an agenda for the leadership, And so if Senator Amy wishes to throw her hat into the leadership elections of Senate President, okay. There's no problem with that. I don't see any problem at all.
No.
But again, it all boils down to the 13 members of the Senate who will vote that particular senator as their leader.
No.
Boils down to that.
Ito nga interesting, what makes this curious, because you ran with the president sa alyansa. If you are fielding yourself as Senate President and hypothetically you don't win, where does that put you? Are you going to be in the minority?
Most probably.
Most probably, I see.
Yes. If I do not believe in the leadership of the Senate President that they will elect, then I'll definitely be in the minority.
So if hypothetically that does happen, there'll be more members of the minority. Because I'm assuming, for example, Senator Ping Lacson, who you ran with, would be with you. That's correct?
Yes.
And perhaps a few others, no?
Yes.
Now, it's just the majority and the minority. Senator Risa Ontiveros is talking about an independent bloc. I've never heard of that, but let's talk about that. What happens with that majority, minority, independent bloc? Is there such a thing?
Independent bloc, macho bloc, whatever bloc you want to call it, it's a mere nomenclature. It's mere nomenclature. There's no such thing in the Senate. It's either you vote for the Senate President, therefore you are members of the majority. If you do not, then you are a member of the minority. There are only two sides in the Senate. It's the majority and the minority. Whatever political party you come from or whatever bloc you would want to call yourselves, you are members of the minority if you do not vote for the Senate President. Now, when you say a big number of minority, in the 13th Congress, we were 11 in the minority. 11 against 13 of the majority. That was the time of Senator Drilon. Senator Pimentel was Senate President. I was Majority Leader. They removed us. They got two of our colleagues to join them. We were the ones. We were the ones who had 13. We were the ones who had 13. That's why Senator Pimentel was Senate President. I was Majority Leader. And then Senator Noli De Castro and Senator Robert Jaworski joined the other group. So sila yung naging 13, kami naging 11. So in history of the Senate, it was the 13th Congress that had the most number of members in the minority, 11. And we stood all the way 11 until the end.
Now, Tito Sen, is it time for President Marcos Jr. to intervene? Because at the end of the day, his legislative agenda will be affected, right? So what he would need is a Senate that is for him. So is it time for him to intervene really between you and Senate President Chis Escudero?
No, I don't think so. I don't think the president should intervene. The president should never intervene in the Senate leadership. In my experience, again, from 1992 to the present, there were only two occasions where the Senate president wanted to inform the members of the Senate who his preference was. And we never listened to the others. Never. The Senate was, in 1992, 19th Congress, it was Neptali Gonzalez who was Senate President. He was LDP President. And we were LDP, kami pinakamarami nun. The President was Fidel Ramos from Lakas. In 1998, the Senate President Erap, that was the only time that President Erap expressed his desire, his wish, that Senator Marcelo Fernan be Senate President.
Okay.
We all wanted him to be Senate President anyway, so that was okay. And
Yeah.
then in 2010, President Noy wanted a member of the LP to be a member of the Senate, but we did not agree. We elected Senator Juan Ponce Enrile
Yeah.
as Senate President. And even
So-
in 1992 to 1998, we had 4 changes of Senate presidents.
Yeah.
Never did the President or President Ramos dip his finger into it. So I don't think the President should intervene. The President Marcos now, Jr., should not intervene in the Senate leadership race.
No.
Never.
But a lot is at stake for President Marcos Jr. I mean,
Pardon?
considering the history he has with his sister, what would Senate look like if the Senate president was his sister? That would affect the budget. That would affect his legislative agenda.
Well, it depends on the members of the Senate, not just the Senate President. The Senate President is not the Senate. That is one thing that we should infuse into the minds of the senators and the people. The Senate President is not the Senate. The Senate are the senators. So therefore, even if, let us say, the Senate President does not jive with the legislative agenda of the President, well, it is up to the senators to decide otherwise. They can move for. There are parliamentary strategies that can be done to be able to do that. So the important thing is that for the Philippines to have a Senate that is cooperative but not subservient and independent. That has always been my position. It should always be independent. Independent from the palace, independent from the House, independent from the judiciary.
Okay. You talked about quickly the 2025 budget, that it was called the most corrupt. And you had agencies that, their budgets were slashed. And a bulk of the budget, a lot of it went to ayuda, which was used during the campaign, right?
Are you sure? Because some of it went to the DPWH.
Okay.
Some went to the DPWH.
Okay, ang tanong ko, do you see the budget issue as an edge for you? If you were Senate President during that time, would that budget have passed in the BICAM?
No way. No way. And as a matter of fact, the BICAM would have been transparent. If I were Senate President, the BICAM would have been transparent. I would not have allowed such to happen in the BICAM. No, even before the BICAM, because there are a number of provisions there that have been prioritized, which should have been prioritized otherwise. Like, for example, take the case of the law that I principally authored, Doktor para sa Bayan. Okay, the proposal then before every year there must be at least 40 students or 40 would-be doctors, medicine proper, na free scholarship, free books, everything, for every SUC that offers medicine proper. Okay? The budget is for that. For this 2025 budget, it was limited to 24. 24 per SUC. Because they cut it.
So they didn't follow the law.
Somebody cut it, and placed it in the DPWH. If I was Senate President, I will never allow that. Yung sample lang yun, and there are
Isa lang yun for you. Isa lang yun. Kasi may issue pa. 12 billion slash DepEd, but we can go on and on. So,
the Senate has been independent during my time. The only budget in history with an annotation was during my time, because I did not agree with what the House did. And the members of the Senate supported me in that case. I did not want to sign the budget because may mga siningit sila during and after the BICAM, which is illegal.
Do you consider the 2025 budget illegal?
My opinion, my personal opinion, yes. That is my opinion. And I believe Senator Lacson is correct when he said that this is the most corrupt budget ever.
Okay.
I believe him, and because he knows his numbers, and he has intel.
Okay. All right. Okay. So I'm going to move on now to another topic because I want to cover a lot of ground. Number one is, did you speak with the senators? Did you get their sense on how they feel about the upcoming trial of Vice President Sara Duterte? Do your colleagues even want a trial?
I have spoken to a few, and most of them are impartial.
Okay.
And they would want to remain impartial. And I impart it on them also, as far as I'm concerned. I would always want to be impartial. Now, there are two conflicting rules presently that beset us and beset the Senate. And those are, first, the Senate rules, which emanate from the Constitution, and the impeachment rules, which I principally authored.
Okay.
Because
let's talk about that in detail. So you're going to talk about rule, this is section 123 of, what rule is this? Is this the 14th rule? Ano ba to? Section 123, right? Unfinished business at the end of the session shall be taken up at the next session in the same status. Is that one? Let's talk about the rules.
No. There is a particular provision in the Senate rules that jibe with the Constitution, which is when the Senate adjourns sine die, everything dies. You will have to refile in the next Congress. Everything. No, everything. Committee reports, kahit natapos na bills, kahit on third reading already. Once adjourned sine die, the Constitution says it all dies without day, sabi nung sine die. So therefore, whatever the Senate is taking up by dating ng June 13, 1-3, June 13, everything dies. Okay, the question is, in the impeachment rules, it says that an impeachment trial must be seen to the end. Pag inumpisahan nila sa June 2 o June 3, tapos pa nila ng June 13, hindi nila matatapos ng June 13. So what will happen? It will cross over, supposed to be, to the 20th Congress. There are people who are saying that yes, it is a carryover.
Yeah.
Because in 1950 ruling by the Supreme Court says so. But 1950 yun, iba na yung Constitution ng 87. In the last Congress, there was a Supreme Court decision on the Balag versus Senate issue.
Yes.
That says na pag natapos ang term, pag nag-adjourn sine die, tapos lahat.
Oo.
So, what does that mean? That means the impeachment dies after June 13.
Okay.
Do we carry it over in the following Congress?
Yeah. So I want to ask you about that. Let's talk about that further for the public to understand. Election lawyer attorney Romy Macalintal also wrote, and I think he spoke about that, and he cited itong Rule 44 of the Senate. So I'm going to repeat it for the audience. So Rule 44 of the Senate states that all pending matters, what you've mentioned, and proceedings die with the adjournment or termination of Congress. So he says this means the incoming Senate, which convenes after June 30, cannot simply resume the impeachment trial. Now, does Rule 44 of the Senate, does that go above the constitutional duty for impeachment that you hold certain officials accountable? Kasi, di ba, it is sui generis, ang sabi nga nila. So, paano yun, Tito Sen?
That is precisely the what I'm saying.
Yeah.
There are two conflicting rules.
Yeah.
But which one shall prevail? Yun ang pinag-uusapan dyan because part 3 of the Part 3 of the impeachment rules shall continue. Ano? Naman, yun namang section 1, 2, 3 of the rules of the Senate, and you read part of it. The Senate terminate upon expiration of the Congress.
Yeah. Oo.
Oh, so
if you were Senate President in the 20th Congress, hypothetical, what would you do? Would you ask your colleagues to take a vote? Because Makalintal says the Constitution explicitly prohibits the filing of more than one impeachment case against the same official within a 1-year period, right? He considers it a revival if the 20th Congress tackles the impeachment. He says it's considered as new. What are your thoughts on that, Tito Sen? What should the senators of the 20th Congress do? Because for sure, Senator Amy Marcos will bring that up. The Sara Duterte supporters will bring that up.
Well, the best is for the Senate to decide. Are you talking about the 19th or the 20th Congress? Because if you're talking about the 19th Congress, sa akin, well, hindsight, it's always the best. Hindsight. On hindsight, in January 18, when they received the transmission from the House, they should have taken it up. Di ba? They should have taken it up. But they did. Nag-adjourn sila ng alas 12 ng gabi ng January 18. Nag-adjourn sila for the campaign. Without transmitting without referring the impeachment to the Committee on Rules. So wala silang nagawa. Ngayon, umpisa nila sa June 2 or June 3. The 20th Congress ang papatakan yan. Because I don't think they can finish it by June 13.
Yeah.
So, the bottom line, well, let the senators decide.
So, what you're saying is, if I'm hearing you, because Senate President Escudero, by the start of June 2, they will convene as an impeachment court, right? Hindi tapos.
Most probably.
Pag pumasok na kayo, 20th Congress, you believe, Tito Sen, kasi una magbobotohan Pagbobotohan ng Senate President, right?
Usually, yes. Usually.
So, posibleng magbago mismo. I mean, the Senate President, essentially, you lead the impeachment court, right?
The presiding officer of the...
so it's the Senate President. So are you saying that the Senate President, if it is no longer, kasi yan ang tanong, if it's Senate President Cheese Escudero, he can decide to continue, pero kung bago, can the new set of senators ask that they take a vote? Is that possible at that point?
Yes, that's possible. And the Senate President, whoever he is, cannot decide.
Yeah.
That should never be done. Mali yun. Kung ginagawa nila yun, mali yun. It is always the Senate who must decide. Like for example, the impeachment court, no? Marami nagsasabi niyan, importante yung impeachment, yung presiding officer. Presiding officer lang yun. Tingnan nilang mabuti yung impeachment. Basahin nilang mabuti, intindihin nila. The impeachment court is the court, not the Senate President. He is merely the presiding officer. He must have a very good mastery of parliamentary rules and procedures, a very good knowledge of the rules of court. Yes, that's about it. But everything is decided by the court. It should never be the Senate President alone who decides. That should never be done. So the members of the Senate in the 20th Congress must stand up and discuss this.
Now, given that you are co-equal branches of government, if this is brought before the Supreme Court, questioning, right, the crossover, because yun ang tanong. Because in the United States, the impeachment court of Bill Clinton crossed 2 Congresses. So that's a defense of the House prosecutors, 2 justices as well. Nagpalit ang Kongreso in the US, tinuloy. But one can argue, iba naman yon, right? Iba ang batas doon, iba ang rules doon.
Correct. Iba.
Oh.
Saka, if I'm not mistaken, the crossover nga, pero di naman nila tinuloy.
Oo.
Oh.
Now, if the Supreme Court makes a decision, hypothetical to, and says you need to continue, does that take precedence over the Senate being a co-equal branch, or the Supreme Court has no say?
Very good question. Ang ganda. That is a very good question. I have not thought of that. Susundin ba namin ng Supreme Court o hindi? Yan ang tanong doon.
You are co-equal.
No, wait. The Senate may pwedeng unahan ng Senate ang Supreme Court. Pwedeng unahan ng Senate. On day 1, July 28, nag-convene ang Senate. Somebody stands up and discusses it. Talks about it. Sabi, do you think by July 28 may decision na Supreme Court dyan? Wala pa. Malamang, humingi pa ng humingi ng comment from us, or from the Senate, from the House. Di ba? Ganyan pa yan kung pangunahan ng Senado, July 28, i-discuss na kagad ng Senado. Yeah. Sabihin ng Senado, hindi kami continuing. Ayun. Tapos. Diba? Pwedeng ganun Depends on the members of the Senate. It's not it is never the Senate President alone.
Okay. Now, my last question is this. You were there for the impeachment trial of Estrada and Corona.
Yes.
It's a political exercise in the end, right? It's a political exercise.
Which we learned in the second impeachment.
Yes.
In the first impeachment, we were tied down to the rules of court.
No. Ang tanong ko, because when I interview the House prosecutors in the end, they talk about, of course, that this is an accountability measure, right? It is an accountability measure for people in higher office, officials in higher office. And at the end of the day, you have a vice president who refuses to explain how she spent her confidential funds. Will that matter to the senators?
It depends on the prosecution, on how they will present it. Is that a violation of their rules? Is that has she violated any rule of the Senate or the Constitution? Kasi ang mga charges na sa Constitution, remember, betrayal of public.
Yes, yeah.
Di ba yung ano ba ito?
But do you believe the results of the midterm elections will affect how the senators will even vote if the trial should continue in the 20th Congress?
It will definitely affect yung mga na-elect
na-elect na.
Tapos na yan Tapos na yan. Ang bantayan mo yung mga re-electionist. Sila ang mag-iisip mabuti kung paano gagawin. Dahil on 2028, re-electionist sila. Diba? So, titingnan nilang mabuti at bago sila mag-desisyon kung paano ang gagawin nila. Kaming natapos na yung eleksyon, nandiyan kami sa 20th Congress, we will most probably decide with impartiality. Ganun sigurado. Well, I'm speaking for myself. The others would probably decide politically. But then again, the other question was very, it really intrigues me. And I probably would consult with the other members of the Senate. Anong tingin nila doon? Paano? Pangungunahan ba namin na Supreme Court o kaya namin mag-decide? Mag-iintay kami? Bakit? Ano yun Tawag dito, co-equal branch.
Okay. All right. Well, first of all, Tito Sen, I'm happy to have you back on Head Start. Congratulations to you.